And now, please welcome President of Norse Atlantic Airways, Charles Duncan, in conversation with founder and editor of the Airline Observer, Brian Summers.
Thank you.
Hi, Charles.
Hello, Brian.
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right, we have a really a feel-good thing to start with.
Okay.
I know not everybody in the audience may know about Norse Atlantic. We have one of your television commercials to run here. Let's take a look.
Sounds good.
This is the captain speaking. Estimated time of arrival will be in 3 hours and 6 months. And row!
Crossing the Atlantic is now 1,000 times better than 1,000 years ago. Celebrating 1,000 years of crossing the Atlantic. Norse, the Explorers Airline.
That's cool. All right.
It's a good ad.
Thank you. There's a few other ones in that series. Yeah.
This past summer, a lot of transatlantic traffic. Did the ad work? Did you guys make money?
We did make money. So we announced, June was our first profitable month, and we announced our Q3 earnings last night, Norway time, and that was certainly the goal, and we did make money. So
you did?
Yes.
All right.
Happy to have that behind us.
That's good.
Yes.
Do you want to tell the audience about the other part of the earnings?
What other part?
Well, I have it right here. You need to raise $45 million to pay, quote, a key supplier. That's not usually good for an airline. What's going on? Why do you owe the supplier money, and why do you need to raise money?
Well, it's more than a single supplier, but I think if you take a step back and just look at the challenges of low cost, long haul, being a startup. We've only been flying for 16 or 17 months at this point. And so as we've proven, we wanted to wait for earnings to be done and then just going out to investors really, globally, but certainly based in most of our investor bases in Oslo and Norway, that we are looking to increase our liquidity and capital as we go into the winter months. So, in fact, the last time that we did an interview together, I think it was April or May, and at that point we were hitting daily sales records and going into the summer, and things were fantastic. And as the IATA winter started this weekend, for our business model, really the challenge is always the winter months, right? So, and so we need that capital ultimately, to just get us through the winter months and through to the next summer season.
Okay. I read a lot of earnings releases, Charles.
You do.
And yours that I saw this morning was a little bit unusual because it also talked about pursuing or exploring what the release called industrial opportunities.
Yes.
What does that mean in English?
Well, I think someone wrote it probably from Norwegian and translated over. But no, I think this is the way to think about that is as we've been out talking to investors. We've also had other companies in the aviation space who have inquired about investing in Norse.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really as simple as that.
Charles, you're a very smart person. You know that there's some skepticism in this room about this model.
Sure.
I don't think that long haul, low cost has been proven to work sustainably at all. Why is this time different? How are you guys going to make it work?
Well, we are, you're right. We acknowledge that it's a huge challenge. In fact, when I was interviewing, I've been with the Norse team since January. It's about 10 months in. And look, I would say we're coming in eyes wide open to the challenges. We're studying history in the past to avoid repeating those mistakes. And it doesn't make it easy by any stretch, but we think we've got the right foundations to make it successful. And I can unpack those a little bit. First and foremost, our CEO and founder is someone who's new to aviation. His name's Bjorn Tore Larsen. He made a fortune in shipping and buying ships, and it's cyclical, big, large oil vessels and container ships and things like this. And the ship industry is very much like aircraft, and even in your interview this morning with Hazi, talking about the cyclicality and people's eyes being bigger than in the good times and so forth. So during COVID, 787s were available. They were plentiful, and we were able to negotiate aircraft leases that are less than half of what the market rates are today. And these are long-term 12-year leases. So we have that's the foundation and the cost base. in very, very cheap and fantastic airplanes at attractive lease rates. And then on top of that, we're really trying to bring in, as we're in Dallas, building on the original low-cost carrier in Southwest, a lot of their models in terms of having a single aircraft type. We want to fly the airplanes as much as we can, and we're up over 16 hours a day. We're very efficient with how we staff our crew, and just being as low cost as we can possibly be, and ultimately bringing great value to consumers. And maybe the piece to close on, and was also in our earnings release, we believe the lowest unit cost, and I know you've been in your newsletter talking about trip cost versus unit cost, but we are the lowest unit cost operator across the Atlantic, and so we think that gives us a really good head start and advantage with the business models. We've got to be focused on costs and then flying in markets where people want to fly, and it's a fantastic product as well. So we've gotten a lot of really good feedback from customers out of it as well.
All right. So when I was a lot younger, right, I thought 12 years, my goodness, that's forever.
Right.
And now, I have kids, they're in school, and 12 years goes by so fast. You're already a couple years into these leases. Year 13, what happens to this airline?
Well, look, great question. I think that we will have, and in my mind, even with the losses we've been seeing other carriers report in Q3, and as Hazi said this morning, I think we will have more downturns over the next 12 years. And we have actually 15 aircraft in our fleet. We're operating 10. We have 5 that are on lease to another operator right now, and we will bring those back as we're comfortable and confident in growth. And we're not going to grow beyond the 15 until we've proven the business model and that we can be profitable year-round and so forth. And then we'll look for good deals and be opportunistic. And so whether we stay at 15 or look to grow will really depend on the macro economy and our own profitability and what rates we can secure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we've known each other for a while. You're kind to put up with me. I don't mean any disrespect by this question,
Oh, no.
but on a scale of bad to absolutely horrific, how is this winter shaping up for North Atlantic?
Bad to horrific. Well, it's better than all of those.
Okay.
So it's off the scale, I guess. I'm not sure. So listen, winter is a challenge.
Yeah.
And so, and always will be. I would say that for our business model, it's kind of the Achilles heel. We can make money in the summer, and I think when we last met 6 months ago, I'd said, and my mantra to our team is, for us to be successful, we need to spend 10 months out of every 12 focused on the winter. Because the summer is relatively easy, and so focusing on winter, we're doing a few things. We've pulled out of a number of markets, so we're not flying to Boston, we're not flying to Dulles. We've pulled out of San Francisco. We've even scaled back Los Angeles, Gatwick from 6 flights a week to 3. So apologies to you in Southern California, but even there, we're middle. And then we're pointing our aircraft to Florida. So London to Orlando is going fantastic. We've shifted from Fort Lauderdale to Miami, and we're really happy with Miami. And then adding Jamaica and Barbados from London. And tomorrow we start our first flight, and actually the strongest of all of our winter routes is from Oslo to Bangkok, and we start that route tomorrow. So that's actually going fantastically. And the other piece that we've been active in, and I don't know, we don't get a lot of visibility for it, but it's just in the ACMI and charter space. And so our phones have been ringing off the hook for charter work this winter. And our CEO likens it to having an ambulance at the bottom of a ski hill, in the winter, and just sort of waiting for either an airplane breaks or someone has a need, or with all the supply chain challenges that are out there. We have a lot of requests for the 787 from operators globally, and we're chasing those down, right now. So it's not bad to awful or whatever words you used. It's it's a challenge. Yeah. Make no mistake. I don't want to mean, it's much harder than the summer is, but we feel good about it.
Yeah. All right. It was something that we talked about before, and we don't think about this much in an era of open skies.
Yes.
But there are regions of the world that you would like to operate in where you may or may not have traffic rights, right?
That's correct.
Is that still an issue with trying to find places for the airplane during the winter?
So for the charter work, no, but on a scheduled basis, it really is. And I think, maybe taking a step back, we're listed in Norway, we're headquartered in Norway. We have 2 AOCs, 2 air operating certificates. So we are a Norwegian airline and a UK airline. And so the traffic rights that come from those 2 countries and what they have negotiated. And Brexit has made all of the agreements that the UK has interesting, shall we say, because they're all being renegotiated. And Norway is not a member of the EU, but is included in the EU Open Skies Agreement with the US. So the traffic rights are complex. Yeah.
All right. Steve Hazy earlier this morning talked about, like, in an ideal world, you'd fly the 787 during the summer,
right,
the A321 during the winter.
Yes.
And I know you said things are not all that bad, but how are you filling 787s across the Atlantic, maybe not to Jamaica, but to Los Angeles during the doldrums of winter?
Yeah, when he was speaking, I was, it was music to my ears. It certainly resonated because, it is absolutely true. And we have no interest in flying empty airplanes or discounting so much that we lose money. And, and so I give the example of LA where, we started that service in June. We were daily this summer, did fantastic. We had aspirations to go to fly it 6 times a week this winter, and both with the combination of weak demand and high fuel prices, we pulled it back to 3. And we're filling those airplanes with 3. So that part is good. We had hoped to fly from Boston and Washington Dulles to London this winter, and demand was tepid, and we're not doing it. So we are following the signals from the market and pursuing demand, and we want to make sure what we fly is profitable. And so in the Hazy example of a 787 in the summer and a 321 in the winter, our answer is Norse. And look, we're a spill carrier. We don't have to have a presence year-round in any market. So we'll fly the 87 in the summer, and we just won't fly it all in the winter. And that's okay. We'll go lease it out or park the airplane and make the lease payments and just minimize costs that way.
Now, you talk about being a spill carrier, but a very smart airline person once told me that the key to most routes, even routes you wouldn't think would be the case, would be to have feed on both sides.
Sure.
You have very little feed, right? You're working
little.
with DoHop a little bit, but how do you get your incremental passengers?
Yeah, so we do work with DoHop and get its mid-single-digit percentage, connecting traffic. So EasyJet, the biggest. We also work with Spirit on the U.S. side here. So we do get some connecting traffic, but as a point-to-point carrier, that means we have to fly between the biggest cities, just full stop. And in fact, interesting. As we're in Texas, our team were quite enamored with Austin as an example, and BA have been flying it. Virgin have been flying it. Virgin, I think last week announced they're pulling out, soon. So even a market like that, our team were looking at. I thought, there's no way that market is big enough to sustain a 338-seat 787, and so we've got to fly to the bigger cities, because we don't have the connectivity and so forth. So we're
Oh, here it is. Here's the route network.
All of it, boom. So anyway, so we are focused on big points where you've got 7-8 carriers is great. If you have and we can be the lowest cost operator, unabashedly going after spill, and with fantastic flight attendants. We've got a great product, and our premium cabin is really good as well. And so once the word of mouth gets out, we think for those who are paying for the ticket themselves, we do really well.
Okay. So some people here know, and I live in Los Angeles, and I don't want to pick on that route too much, but there's a lot of airlines flying that route. I'm sure there's
which is perfect for us. Which
yeah,
is why
I'm
we're
sure
there.
there's plenty of spill in July, but you're trying to tell me that there's spill in January?
You know what? Yes, but less certainly.
Yeah.
But there is. And so in January we'll fly at. In November we're going to fly it at 80%. So I would expect January we probably will as well. And I think there are a lot of Europeans who still are going out and want the sun and want to go, to wherever, Hollywood Studios or something, and Disneyland, and we do well with that. So we had been hopeful to do 6. I would have preferred 6, but so we're just kind of scaling back the frequency to fill the airplane.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the macro arguments made against airlines with your model, not necessarily yours, but this idea that even if you have a cost advantage over the larger airlines, you lose that cost advantage the longer the stage length gets. So once you're flying transatlantic or longer, you don't have much to offer that other airlines don't. Like, where's the cost advantage for you guys on a longer stage length?
Well, it's many-fold. I would start with the aircraft leases, or permanent in a 12-year sense. We are really efficient with our crew, both in terms of our labor agreements, the work rules. But when you think about a long-haul carrier, they may be doing deadheading and long sits for connections, and so we can be really efficient with crew. We don't participate in GDS systems, and so we keep our distribution costs quite low in that sense. And just by being new, we're able to outsource many things and just keep competitive tension and pressure from suppliers. So I think there are many ways that we can do that. Yeah, I mean, in my mind, it is true. I mean, there's this, the truism of short haul and multiple legs. You maybe squeeze out an extra departure a day, if you're a narrow body operator, but we can still get efficiencies, we think, from being a long haul operator, and just the density of our cabins as well.
They're not that dense.
Oh, well, I mean, I would
You're
say
still
338
333 in economy with what, 31-inch pitch?
31.
So that's standard though. You're not French B. You're not adding an extra.
Well,
seat
it's a different
row.
airplane. Yeah, 350.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right.
You're
On the
making my point for me.
revenue side, Charles.
But I would just say, I mean, I'll come back that, and it's kilometer based. But in July, our CASK was 3.2 ex fuel.
Yeah.
Nobody's lower.
Yeah.
And we can pass that along and make a profit when others can't. And so I think we've proven that we're the lowest cost operator. I think the challenge now is maintaining that focus, for the years to come, so we don't become higher cost over time.
All right. And on the revenue side, I think last time we spoke, you said that you were going to consider selling plane tickets up to maybe 1.5 to 2 years in advance,
yes,
like a cruise line. Did you end up doing that?
We did, yes. Not fully, and part of this is we want the network to mature and know where we're going to be, but our PSS Navitaire doesn't have the arbitrary 330-day limit in it, and so we can load more than 11 months in advance, and we do. But typically what we'll do is, so for example, in July of this summer, we loaded the following summer all the way to the end of October. So in that case, we were probably 15 months out for markets that we had confidence in we were going to fly.
Do people buy those tickets 14 months in advance?
A few. It's small, but it's a few. It's a long, that long, thin tail.
And that cash flow helps you get through the winter, huh?
Sure does. Absolutely.
Okay. We have some audience questions here, and please keep them coming. Anonymous wants to know, how much are you looking at selling non-air like hotel and tour packages through your retail channels? Yeah,
so we're looking at it. We're a bit behind in that sense. So I would say there's a lot of opportunity there, and we haven't mentioned ancillary, but I forget now from the Q3, but I think it's $134 per passenger.
131, Charles.
131, thank you. So we're at 131 per passenger, and that's without really tapping into tour packages and hotels very much. We do offer both, but minimally, and so we do think there's room to grow the ancillary line even further. Yeah.
So in terms of the 131 number, what's the biggest part of that? It must be bags?
Yeah, bags, seat assignment. I mean, those are far and away the biggest, both, carry-on checked, and then also, I mean, it's lounges. One of the other great things, we've got a great partnership with our caterer, and this is the first airline I've ever worked at where onboard food is a profit center for us. And so we do make money serving and selling food, and I've never seen another airline, in my limited experience, where that's been the case.
What's the trick? Because you do hear that food is not profitable on most airlines.
Well, giving none of it away, for one, so charging for it all, but even then just the logistics costs and delivery and whatnot. And I think, we, in fact, working with Panasonic, we have now on one of our aircraft, order at seat. And it doubled the sales as we rolled that out last week. And so we're going to get that out in the next couple of weeks in the rest of our fleet. So there's room to grow that further. So we actually are pretty excited about ancillaries across the board. And I think hotel and in particular and tour will be elements. Travel insurance will be another I didn't mention, but that's also been big.
Yeah, I hear the margin on travel insurance is beyond belief.
So I hear. Yes.
So I hear?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Another audience question here. It looks like you have a customer in the audience, Dr. Joe Leader. I think most of you know Dr. Joe Leader. He says, your premium economy has become the go-to for my team, and how much of premium economy is direct selling versus the upgrade? Yeah,
well, look, I mean, thanks for that question, Joe. It varies by market, of course. It's roughly 50-50 in terms of direct sell versus upgrade. We are, and your team is going to be happy about this, just with the winter schedule this weekend, we're bringing a lot of enhancements, a new food menu, new amenities, and just a proper service delivery we didn't have time, there he is, to do when we launched last summer. And so it's an all-new product, and the hope is as we can market that on our website, we'll actually sell even more and do fewer upgrades, hopefully. But it's fantastic value, 43-inch pitch. I mean, objectively, the hard product is the best in the air, and now we're investing in the soft product to make it commensurate.
It is
We're excited about
exactly the same hard product that Norwegian flew, right?
that. It is.
What made you guys decide, we don't need to touch these interiors?
Expedience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we were, before I joined the company, but spending 2021 and 2022, early to, getting the airline off the ground. And there wasn't time to go on. I mean, when you get an airplane, the engineering involved in just, changing the LOPA and everything else, getting new seats, is so costly and time intensive. We just took the airplane as it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more audience question here. Somebody wants to know if Central America or even Cancun is on your radar.
Yes. So it gets back to the traffic rights a bit. We can fly London to Cancun, and it's certainly one that's on our radar, so to speak. We chose Montego Bay and Barbados just because we. Unlike a Cancun, it's more of a multi-dimensional market. There's a VFR component, both points of sale, air only, along with leisure and tour package, whereas a Cancun would be more one-dimensional UK leisure. But it's certainly one we're looking at. Central America, we could. The market sizes are a little bit smaller, and what we have found is our model does best. We're happy. We don't want to create markets. We want to go into large markets that already exist and just be the lowest cost player, and again, carry spill. So there's less of that kind of flying in Costa Rica or Central America, I would say.
So if you look back to this past summer, what was your point of sale on the European U.S. routes? Was it mostly European point of sale, or was it also U.S.?
The U.S. led the way.
Really?
So the U.S. was very, very strong for us, and I think part of that, it's just been easier to sell in the U.S. And when our European colleagues are here in the U.S., their currencies are so weak or the dollar's so strong that they all complain about even how much the Starbucks or the Big Mac is. So I think that's had an impact on European demand of the U.S.
Great. So Charles, we're almost out of time, but I want to geek out for the end here.
Okay.
Because you're an aviation romantic.
I am.
I'm an airline romantic. I cannot get myself out of it, and these people are as well. You were telling me about your favorite job in airlines.
Yep.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Yep.
You ran Continental Micronesia,
I did.
right? What made that experience so special?
Well, yeah, so Continental Micronesia started in 1968, 10 airplanes, headquartered in Guam, and it's just a family, so we flew from 10 cities in Japan, all to Guam on package tours, very much like this leisure business here, but also an 8-hour flight to Honolulu, and we were roughly about 1,000 people there, and just family, and it's very, very few places you can have a corporate job and be a 3-minute drive to the office airport and a 2-minute drive to the beach, and it's 88 and sunny every day of the year.
Does it make you sad that United has taken that hub down to almost nothing?
It does make me sad, but I also think that, like everything, it's cyclical, and I think it will come back, as well. I mean, as the yen is strong, ultimately the Pacific comes back, and it's a lot tied to China and just the overall Trans-Pacific offering. But great people, great business, and I loved working out of Guam.
Thank you, Charles. It's a
Thank you.
fascinating business. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brett.
All right.